Good afternoon. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. I am your host, Jasmine Urbina, here in the studio with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. Hi, Dad.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
You got that deep voice going on today.
Yeah,
you got the radio
I have
voice.
like a raspy, sick voice, so you guys are going to have to bear with me if you hear sniffling and my deep man voice. But today we're going to be talking about bullying, a bunch of different kinds. We have, physical bullying, verbal bullying.
Yeah, bullying has advanced. I didn't realize how advanced it has become.
Kids are so intricate with their bullying now that it's insane.
It's actually an art form. We talk about creating an art form to be healthier in your life and to master your life and master personal growth. Literally, there's a way to master bullying in the negative way, and it's sad. It's heartbreaking to me to, kind of be researching some of this stuff, and my heart hurts for kids that have to go through this day and age, the punishment and the things that really taint the human spirit and the innocence in our kids. And I think it's time to talk about it, even though, we haven't talked about it for a while. So let's just dive right into it. I want to go over the different kinds of bullying first on the front part of the show, and then we'll talk a little bit later on about what kinds of bullies are out there and so forth. So obviously the first type of bullying that's the most common is the physical bullying. And it occurs when kids use physical actions to gain power and control over their targets. Did you ever get bullied physically when you were going to school?
No, I think girls are more, they fall into the verbal bullying realm, but I for the most part, growing up, didn't really see that much physical bullying. So for me, there wasn't really any instances where I, had the opportunity to stand up for someone or, to call anybody out or anything. Because physical bullying was, I feel like maybe that was more like your guys' era, or even like the baby boomers, was pushing people into the lockers and all those things you see in the movies.
Yeah.
But for us, it was a little bit more, I guess, under the radar.
And what I remember about the physical bullying, it came after a tirade of assaults, verbal assaults, and those kinds of things. And then it would escalate to the point where the bully would now either grab you by the shirt and slam you against a locker. But I don't remember anything physical unless either you made the bully mad and now he or she is just so angry that they now want to, take out their anger out on you. The next kind of bullying that you just referred to is the verbal bullying. So verbal bullies use words, statements, name calling so that they can gain power and control over their target. Typically, verbal bullies, they'll use relentless insults to belittle you, to demean you, to hurt another person. They also choose their targets based on the way that they look, act, or behave. It's also common for verbal bullies to target kids with special needs. And I've seen this growing up where there were certain kids that had certain disabilities and they were just it appeared to be easy targets for bullies.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, verbal bullying was really popular, I guess, for girls. And I did see it with guys too, especially, you would see that stereotypical jock, football player, basketball player, bullying, some of the kids with special needs. And it was really hard to see. And there's times where I lost friends growing up, and I'm laughing because it is so unimportant, but it was a big deal to me back then where, just to stand up for somebody else, I had to say, that's not cool. And I can't really be friends with you because that's embarrassing. I don't want to be associated with someone who's going to bully somebody with, special needs, or anybody for that matter.
I wish I could go back to school with the mentality and the awareness I have now to be able to stand up for other people that can't stand up for themselves yet. I don't think that I had the confidence yet back then to be able to stand up for other people. I could barely stand up for myself, but I wish I could go back in time and really be that advocate for kids, knowing what it's like to be a father and loving your kids and wanting to protect your kids. I think having that awareness when you're young, you would, kind of stand up for each other. I think that, if you look at some of the movies where a brother will stand up for his younger brother because he loves his younger brother, that's, his teammate, right? They're the family team, and they got to look out for each other. And imagine what school would look like if we all operated from I'm my brother's keeper. And we really kind of looked out for each other and had a pack mentality where we weren't going to let anybody hurt anyone in our village or in our tribe.
Yeah, and I think up until something, terrible happens or something tragic happens, kids don't really, or anybody for that matter, but kids don't really rally around each other like that. Like I said, until something happens where they feel like it's us against you, or it's us against someone else, or we're all we have kind of thing. And, I've seen kids come together when they want to, protest, or when they're not happy with the way the school's running, or I've seen kids really be strong like that. And, like I said, until something crazy happens, they're not really, it's like they don't realize it yet.
Yeah. The next kind of bullying is called relational bullying. And this is a sneaky and people that are relational bullies are sneaky and insidious type of bullying that often goes unnoticed by parents and teachers. Bullies often ostracize others from a group. They spread rumors, manipulate situations, and they break confidences. And this is usually the goal behind that is that a relationally aggressive bully is to increase their own social standings by controlling or bullying another person.
Yeah, I think that type of bullying is like a little bit scarier to me than, I would rather, I think, be physically hit than and pushed into a locker than be manipulated in all these different kinds of ways, especially as like a young teenager when you're trying to, be cool, be popular, and, have people, figure out who you are. And then you have people that are manipulating you in the way that people perceive you.
Yeah. I kind of visualize it like in the stock market. If you have invested some money in a stock and you believe in that stock and you want it to win or you want it to succeed, and then you have all these people that are called shorters. Their job is to make the stock go down, and so all they're doing is being these online bullies that are throwing out rumors and they're sabotaging the stock, and you're like, no, this is a good product for the world. And so it's kind of like, as a kid, you're trying to figure out who you are or try to present yourself in a certain way. You're trying to fit in or be a part of your peers, be accepted. And then you have some person or a couple of people that are discrediting you, and you don't know how to stand up for yourself. It's like, I don't know how to stand up to that. Like, how do I course correct somebody that's, putting down my character and my attempts to try to be somebody in the world?
Yeah, and I remember in school that was really popular for amongst girls. Boys would make up rumors about girls and things that they would do that weren't true, and you would get the shamers that were trying to I don't really know what their ultimate goal was, but I remember for girls it was very common to make up lies about them sexually, like and for me, that was really hard to see, especially some of my friends fall into that or have all these rumors going around where they were so untrue that there was just nothing you could do about it. And that just became their image or their social status at school. That was just who they were. And it really wasn't who they were at all.
Absolutely. You just use a word, you called it shamers. Is that a technical term in today's world?
Yeah, there's a word in front of it, but I can't say it on the radio.
Okay.
So I shortened it down to shamers.
You're right. It starts with an S, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The next kind of bullying is called cyberbullying. It's when a tween or a teen uses the internet or a smartphone or other technology to harass, threaten, embarrass, or target another person. And this is obviously, in today's time with technology being advanced, we didn't have cyberbullying back in my days because there was no internet. But today, it's a real thing. It's it's this whole different realm that you guys had to deal with and probably are still dealing with.
Yeah, and I think for me, cyberbullying wasn't really big in high school. I think by high school, everyone was kind of already maybe over it a little bit. But when I was in junior high, that was kind of when the peak of when we were allowed to have social media. And, because when we were in elementary school, we weren't really on the computer all that much. But by the time I got to junior high, it was really bad. Like, as far as cyberbullying went, I would get a message randomly from someone that I didn't even really know. I knew they went to my school, and they would just go off on me, or they would post on my page. Back when there was a MySpace, they would post bulletins so that all your friends, all the school, everybody can see what they wanted to say about you. So now I think it's a little bit different, where maybe they're cyberbullying like privately, like maybe in your private messages or something. But
well, I just saw a show not too long ago where these young adults went back to high school, and one of the young ladies is a very attractive young girl, and she went back. I think she's like in her early 20s, but she went back as a teenager in high school. And the young boys started a group chat, and they started, basically saying these sexual things back and forth. And one guy actually added her to it, and she was able to see what they were all saying about her. And she was shocked, she was crying, she was hurt, she was offended. And the brother was sitting there, and they're videoing both of them, and the brother's sitting there watching it. And he's heartbroken because he's watching these young men use vulgar language towards his sister, and just watching it as a third party, I was heartbroken to see that she was experiencing that. And she was a young lady; she was in her early 20s. Can you imagine a 13 or 14-year-old girl that has to put up with that kind of abuse? Is appalling.
Yeah, and I think also what kind of goes back to the cyberbullying thing, which is a little bit obvious, but in case parents listening. You might not know that this is going on because, like I said, it might not be publicly put out there on their page, and nobody might not know about it except your kid, your son or daughter. At school, when there's physical bullying, other people witness it. If it's posted directly on your page, other people will see it. But if it's sent to you in a private message, nobody will see it but you.
That's a great point.
And people, kids especially, are really harsh when they don't have to say it to your face. And so I think those two factors play in, and you have no idea as the parent that that's even going on.
Yeah, there's a saying that the parent is always the last to know. And so that's why conscious parenting is about being aware, noticing signs, asking questions, maybe pulling your son or daughter's friends aside and asking them. Your job is to try to figure out what's going on, because your son or daughter is not going to reveal that information because they're embarrassed, they're hurt. The last person they want to tell is their mom or dad. So that brings us to the second to last type of bullying, and that's the sexual bullying. Consists of repeated harmful and humiliating actions that target a person sexually. Examples include sexual name calling, rude comments, vulgar gestures, uninvited touching, sexual propositioning, and then pornographic material. So all these things, whether it's images or just words that are directed towards you as a young person with the intent to humiliate you or to take all of me as the bully, wanting to put some kind of harm on you, or even just using it for my own gratification to know that I'm sending these kinds of messages to you with an intent to hurt your feelings,
yeah, and
or embarrass you.
I think for young boys, teenagers, it's more like to be funny. I think at least that was like in my experience growing up, was boys would yell out comments and all the other boys would laugh.
So
it was more like,
so it's to be socially accepted by your other peers, to act like you're bad, like you're cool, that you're this Romeo, like you're showing off.
Yeah, I think somewhere along the lines, the whole having a bunch of girls fall all over you, that just didn't happen for a lot of guys. So what they did was they just decided to start picking out girls to start harassing and mess with, because the guys that do have girls falling all over them, they're not the ones that are shouting all these rude things, because girls don't want anything to do with them. So at least in my experience in high school, that's kind of, more how it was. It was always like the weird guys or the creepy guy. They were always the ones that were shouting stuff out at you, and their friends were laughing. And but they don't realize that they think it's funny, that it's not a big deal. But to girls, it sends them home crying.
Let me ask you a quick question. Just now that you've recently transitioned from a teen into a young adult, 0 to 10, how many girls do you think are being sexually bullied? 0 to 10. How many would you say?
10, all 10.
Come on.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Definitely. I don't know a single girl who hasn't been sexually harassed, bullied, either at school, I don't know, any function that you go to, out at a restaurant. It doesn't matter where you go. Almost, at least for me, maybe because I'm still kind of young, but at least once a week I feel like I'm sexually bullied or harassed by some random person. And back in school, it was more. So I think even if you don't think that your daughter is getting bullied or harassed, or people aren't, driving by and whistling to her at the street, that still, it makes them feel uncomfortable, and it's still some form of bullying.
Yeah, that hurts my heart just hearing that. Those are staggering numbers. I mean, coming from you, obviously your own opinion, but being a kid that's recently in different social settings, especially at school, to be having that be your experience, is shocking.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's worse. I think it's gotten worse because of all of the, all these things that we've been talking about with the internet and all the kinds of things that boys especially have access to now. And it kind of goes back to all of the young kids now, their mentors or the people that they look up to. We used to look up to I would say, some quality actors and guys that, you would fall all over. But now kids, they're looking up to these Viners and these YouTubers that are getting in trouble for posting and, saying crude comments and, for sexual harassment and other allegations that I think it's getting worse for the younger girls. Yeah. So if it was 10 for us, it's 11 for them.
Yeah, I agree. And the last one is prejudicial bullying. I have trouble saying that. Prejudicial bullying is based on prejudices. Teens and tweens that use that prejudice towards people of different races, religions, and sexual orientation. So those are the different types of bullying that's going on in today's world. I want to transition into what types of bullies are out there, just kind of open up that distinction and open up that possibility and kind of talk a little bit about that. So the first one is bully victims. So these are often, bully victims often rise up from after being bullied themselves. Then what they do in return is they bully other weaker kids because they too have been bullied. And then also their goal is usually to regain a sense of power and control in their own life because they've been hurt. And there's a saying that hurt people hurt people. And I think that's really what's going on here when it comes to bully victims.
Yeah, and I think the number one bully victims are always the ones that, like we had said earlier, that are they are more likely to be a victim is, the kids with special needs, any girl, any type of girl, sexual orientation, anyone who has a different sexual orientation than the norm, all of those kids, if you're a parent and your kids fall into any of those three categories, they're being bullied. You can't pretend like they're not. If you have a
you can pretend. That's actually what's happening.
Oh, okay. So I'm telling you,
that's the purpose of why we're having the show, is to cause awareness and say, hey, stop pretending, and sit down and actually have this uncomfortable conversation with your son or daughter, and be willing to ask that question: are you bullied? Have you been bullied? And let's talk about that. Let's give ourselves permission as parents to attempt to heal our kids, help them make sense of what's going on in the world and why it's happening.
Yeah, and I think a lot of parents kind of, they end up saying, oh, I got bullied as a kid. That's just part of it. And it may have been part of it back then when you were a kid and bullying wasn't so harsh, but now it's on a whole different level. There's even different types of bullying to categorize that should tell you that there's a lot more going on than when you were a kid.
Absolutely. The next one is popular bullies. Popular bullies have big egos. They're confident and condescending. They usually have a group of followers or supporters that may feel like they rule the school. Like, this is our school, and if you don't fit in, we're going to let you know that, and we're going to try to manipulate you. And those are the popular kids that think that, they're got a little higher status than you do. They're prejudging you.
Yeah, you can kind of tell, like, when you're in the school, even I think as a parent or even me as a young adult going in, if I sat there at brunch and watched all the kids for 15 minutes, I can figure out who the popular bullies are.
Yeah, you're looking around going, who runs this school?
Because you can tell their egos are just so big. It's like they're glowing, like they're just radiating this, this persona, this essence that it's so easy to find. And sometimes just out and about at the mall or at a restaurant or something, I can see them. And
yeah, but that's because you've been really working on your ability to be aware and present and observant.
I genuinely think that when you're in school, you learn all the different types of bullying and you can see it. And I don't really think it has to do with, working on yourself or being more conscious. I think even unconsciously, you'll be able to tell.
Okay. The next one is the relational bully. The relational bully is usually a somewhat popular student who enjoys deciding who's accepted at the school and who isn't, excluding, isolating, and ostracizing others that are more common weapon used by this type of bully. Normally, categorized as the mean girl syndrome. So mean girls are the relational bullies.
I was just going to say mean girls are the boy version of the popular bully.
Right,
like
right.
they're really the one that they kind of call the shots and they kind of decide everyone's social status, probably like a little bit more than the boys, just because I think girls naturally can manipulate a little bit better.
When did the movie Girls come out?
I think
Was it 2000?
Yeah, I was like in elementary school.
When I saw that movie, it really woke me up, and it really shook me to the core. I was like, wow, does this really happen? I know it's a movie, but is this really happening? And then I started asking some of the kids that I work with if this really happens, and they're saying yes, it does happen. It actually starts in the lowest grade school. It starts in the third grade. In the second grade, little girls will start making a little pack, and then they start saying things to the kids that aren't so-called at their level of where they put themselves in status, and they start belittling them. Is it really starting that young, the mean girl syndrome?
Yeah, so I have a really quick story about that movie and me being in elementary school. So when I was in like 5th or 6th grade, that movie came out. When I was in 5th or 6th grade, there was a group of girls that were like that. And so when that movie came out and we all saw it, we started calling them the Plastics, which was the group's name in that movie. Right. And the reason why we started calling them that was because the teachers were calling them that. Like it was like even the adults knew that that was going on, and I personally got bullied by them. My friends got bullied by them. I never, ever, ever had a teacher ever pull me aside and say, hey, I saw that this happened. I want to see if you're okay. I want to see. So for me, that movie kind of reminds me, every time I see it, every time it comes on, it reminds me of being in elementary school and, seeing the teachers know what's going on and not do anything about it, especially because in the movie, the teachers in that movie try. They really try. Right. And to see my teachers in elementary school really honestly fail their students really was hard for me. Yeah. And I think that if you think that that's not going on in 3rd grade, you're wrong. Because in 1st, 2nd, 3rd grade, school is when we all start to socialize and we all start to naturally find, your own cliques. And the mean girls always seem to find each other.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here's my tribe. I'm going to kind of hang out because we all have this insecurity about ourselves that we need to get together and we need to start making fun of other kids so that we feel better about ourselves.
Yeah, and I think a little bit, too, comes from the way that they were raised. Most of the girls that are in those groups have a little bit of entitlement, which they feel entitled to be in a group that's superior above everybody else.
Yeah, when we come back from the break, I want to finish talking about what types of bullies are out there. Then I want to transition into what kinds of kids are typically being bullied so that as a mom or dad, you're going, oh, my God, that's my son, that's my daughter, and what do I need to do now to really help support them in this?
Sounds great. We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more of The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
Come join me, Arif Halby, for Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Every Tuesday at noon, we uncover ways to help you manage your money, get out of debt, and prepare for your retirement. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour. Are you not sure if you can retire yet? Listen to us and learn about tips for savings, retirement strategies, and so much more. That's every Tuesday at noon on Total Financial Solutions Safer Money Hour on your hometown station, KHTS.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
Marston's Restaurant has been a Pasadena landmark, voted the best breakfast in California by the Food Network magazine. Discover Marston's Santa Clarita location, open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Marston's also has a fantastic catering menu that adds a delicious twist to any event, and they cater picnic dinners for that memorable romantic date. Experience Marston's on Newhall Ranch Road and McBean, or log on to marstonsrestaurant.com.
Indulge yourself in the world of wine at the 6th Annual Sierra Pelona Valley Wine Festival, Saturday, April 21st from noon till 4 p.m., benefiting the Zonta Club of SCV. Get your Chardonnay on with live music, gourmet food, handmade crafts, and the best local wine Santa Clarita has to offer at Reyes Winery. Dionysus Dilettantes and wine connoisseurs alike will enjoy this festival. Sponsored by Reyes Winery, Pepsi, Anheuser-Busch, main stage sponsor SCV Advanced Audiology, and VIP sponsors California Bank and Trust and Mercedes-Benz of Valencia. Visit ReyesWinery.com to purchase tickets.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we're talking about bullying and the different types of bullying that go on, especially in school. And over the break, we were having an interesting conversation. So
yeah, I think that conversation where you guys, it's funny how in the break sometimes we get a little loose and we start sharing stuff that is a little bit more intimate. But both you and Andrew's our board op. You guys were talking about what kind of bullying actually happens. And what was shocking was you actually said a few names that categorized the type of bullying that I didn't realize was really going on. So tell me what it looks like to be bullied at school.
Well, specifically what we were talking about over the break was kind of like how bullying just got worse. Like, even since I was in school, but some of the scenarios that I think would be good for parents to hear that they're not realizing actually how bad it is was, I'll go first. The one I was talking about was there was this thing that boys used to do, and it was like a game, and it was called Scoop. And Scoop was when a boy would run up to a girl and he would either like grab her butt, like scoop, it was like scoop her butt or scoop her breasts, and he would just do it real fast and run away, and it left the girl standing there feeling violated, that somebody just grabbed her in one of the parts that you're always told you're not supposed to sexualize.
That happened on, if not on the daily,
it was almost every day.
It happened a lot.
Unimaginable to me.
Yeah, and that's like it literally is our life. So to me, it's almost not that weird.
And it's
but
every
it kind of is not that weird. Yeah, and I never thought about that girl is feeling violated and weird. It's just we just did that, and everybody laughed. Everybody laughed at the situation. I even laughed. Laughed.
You were laughing.
I was laughing like, "Oh, he did it! Oh my goodness, he did it!"
You're kidding me.
And that was it. And I never thought what she might have felt or anything like that.
So you never thought that the girl could now be traumatized for the rest of her life, or could go down a desperate hole of being feeling humiliated and embarrassed
and violated. Really, that's one of the things that it's weird because if a random stranger did that to you on the street, it would be different. But for some reason, if it was someone at school that you knew, it was almost like you let them. Like you wouldn't like girls never told.
But
on
in your
them.
mind, you don't know that's against the law. You don't know that's breaking a law.
I think it was so. I think it was so normal.
Yeah.
It was so common.
I know it's common, but it's against the law.
Oh yeah, of course. But you're so embarrassed that do you really want to go tell your male principal that some boy came up and grabbed? It was embarrassing.
No, I know as the person, but what about as the observers? If it's happening at lunch, and 30 or 50 people are watching that and then giggling or laughing, I can't even wrap my mind around.
It was because it was so common, and we never thought, oh, everyone's kind of doing it, or that's just a thing. It was just she was the one that got chosen today. So that's why we didn't say like, oh my gosh, I can't.
I get it, but you
this.
guys make it sound like it was someone that got a water balloon and ran in and just targeted.
That's
somebody.
what it almost
it's
felt
almost like what it was.
Exactly what it kind of was.
There's a couple boys I told on, but I didn't tell on everybody, and that. Even now, like I obviously feel bad, but even being victim to stuff like that, it was so common that it's sad that we kind of all just put our heads down, like the girls. We put our heads down and we just said, "Oh my God, I feel bad for her, but I hope it's not me tomorrow." Wow. And that was it.
And that's it. It's just it wasn't top of mind that what we were doing or anything like that was going to be that traumatizing later. It was just something to do. And
as a conscious young adult, not yet a parent, because when you give birth to this beautiful baby and you want to protect this baby for the rest of their life, or at least until they become an adult and can protect themselves, what do you want to say to school officials? Like what message they need to hear to wake up, to be able to what can we do to change this? What can we do to protect our our kids that are in school and don't know how to, can't protect themselves yet. And obviously, as a pack, as a tribe, we're not confident and assuring ourselves yet enough to say, hey, that doesn't get to happen in my school no more. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, and I think that there are some teachers that did do their best, and they did try. We were talking about on the break, Andrew, that he was saying that the football coach would make the boys run if
because
if
one
someone got in
incident
trouble.
was just that a football player went and grabbed a female student, and she reported it, and it got to the coach, and we all had to run for that. So it does get reported and things like that, but more often than not, it doesn't.
Yeah,
or it didn't at that time. But I
don't feel like running matches the punishment.
No,
for that.
I'm sure the student got separately punished, but the boys, as the bystanders and being the friend and laughing at it, they got punished.
And then by that, if one of our football players was gonna do that again, we said, no, you're not doing that. Not for that, just because we didn't want to run.
Right. It was more because you didn't want to get in trouble. It wasn't because, hey, this isn't.
Yeah, but nobody sat down and said,
this is the wrong thing.
This
is wrong. Like, we shouldn't be encroaching on people and, doing those kinds of things.
I also think that as far as the school officials go, I remember at lunch or brunch, there would be maybe 3 or 4 campus supervisors for how many, almost,
thousands of kids.
1,000 kids go out at brunch, and you have 3 supervisors. Yeah, they could break up a fight after 5 minutes, but they're not going to see every single time, a girl's violated or, I mean, it's almost insane that 3 people are in charge at one time of 1,000 kids. It's just not realistic. It's not enough. And I'm sure there's situations where teachers turn their head too, or they make it not a big deal, or they decide that they're going to be the one to punish the student instead of reporting it to the principal or to the higher ups.
All right, let's move on, because I know we've gone.
We could go on forever.
I know. I wanted to really give that, create an open space for you guys to share that, because if I'm shocked at that, hearing that information, I know there's got to be other parents that are shocked, appalled, upset, angry. Something's got to change. The next kind of bullying is the serial bully, and the serial bully is another type of bullying that is often found in popular circles. On the outside, this type of bully appears to be sweet, charming, and charismatic to authority figures. They're loved by probably all the teachers, but on the inside, they can be cold and calculating. And tend to inflict emotional pain on their victims over long periods of time. Serial bullies are skilled manipulators and liars, and are usually fake friends. Their sweet and nice persona is just another way to manipulate situations to their liking. Does this ring a bell, or can you identify somebody that fits those kinds of characters?
I can identify somebody that fits every single one of these categories, and for this one, it really brings back a lot of memories, and I realized a lot of the trauma and horror that we went through, or I went through as a teenager, that this would never happen now. I would never be at work and someone would be serial bullying me, but that's because I'm a grown woman, and I'm not going to put up with this or that, and
but some do.
Apparently
some teenagers don't develop the confidence and the self-love and the self-awareness and to be able to stand up for themselves and say, stop, this doesn't get to keep happening. Okay, it might have happened when I was younger and didn't have a voice or didn't find my voice, but now I'm a full-grown woman, powerful woman that loves myself, and you don't get to treat me like this, and I get to use my voice to make that stand. Some are in their 30s or 40s or 60s and still haven't developed that kind of confidence to be able to take that stand for themselves.
Yeah, and I can see even everything that's going on right now in Hollywood about all these women who, after all these years, are coming out about these men in Hollywood, successful men in Hollywood. I'm wondering, what took you so long? You know how many other women were harassed, how many other women were taken advantage of after you because you didn't say anything, and because your career was so important, because, and there's, I'm not here to judge anybody, because I've kept my mouth quiet about, about a lot of things and didn't help a lot of people, I'm sure. But at the same time, there's going back to the serial bullying. Serial bulliers, they keep going. They just go, 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 and nobody ever stops them.
I think you can probably classify a lot of them as narcissistic. They're narcissists, full of themselves, but they're charming. I think that's the scary part, is they're charming. So for other adults or authority figures to go, you're talking about Tim, sweet Tim? You know, because Tim has enrolled everybody to believe that he's that kind, honorable student that is respectful, and not realizing that he uses or could be using those abilities to manipulate people so that he can still do what he does.
I was just going to say, I remember my friends, like my girlfriends in high school, either having crushes on or dating this type of personality, and I would be like, why? Like, this person is so disgusting. This person has literally caused so much like trauma onto other people, like, and we grew up with them. He bullied you, and after all this time I realized, they had something about them that people would look past, and I think that's what it was. It was the charmingness. It was the, he's cute, he's nice to me. Yeah, but he's nice to you now, but he's mean to everybody else.
So there's a lot of dysfunction going on, is what you're saying.
Yes.
That's accepted, overlooked, and not being addressed, is basically what you're saying.
And I have another scenario that it's funny now that I think about it, but back then I was like, I did not know what to do. And one of those things was, when I was in elementary school, there was a group of boys who used to bully me all the time. They would always make fun of me, like calling me, saying that I had really big hips, and they would, that was like one of my really big insecurities, was they would make, fun of my hips and my legs, and they would call me all kinds of names. And when I got to high school a couple years later, my sister started dating one of those guys, and he would come to our house and, be all nice and sweet as pie to you and mom. And it would literally drive me crazy. Like, I wanted, when he would come over, I'd stay in my room. When my sister would talk about him, I would kind of zone out, because to me, he put me through a lot of trauma growing up. And then, all these years later, he was probably a little bit older, a little bit more mature, but it's still, I still felt like a little kid again. And I think even though you grow up and you realize that, those things were just things, they're not really that important. You don't realize like how much they affect you until you run into that person again.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you.
Oh, no, it's okay. I just wanted to share that story for parents so that, they can see that, people really become blind to a lot of stuff that, and I don't even know if they're blind. Maybe they just pretend not to know, or. But
I think it's important for you to share it too, because that's something you've been holding on to and never said out loud. I think it's important for you to say it too, because you get to surrender that, let that go. But if you can share it and somebody learn from it, as well as yourself and me and the people around us, then it was valuable for you to share that and I want to thank you for having the courage to share that.
Thank you.
The next is group bullies. Group bullies are typically a part of a group and have a pack mentality when they're together. They tend to bully as a group, but behave much differently when they're alone. So when they're alone, they could be the sweet as pie or cowardly. But when there's a bunch of them together, they get all riled up and they charge each other up, and they feed like a pack of wolves. And when you're watching it, you're probably looking, going, Timmy, you're like my next door neighbor. You're like this cool kid, nice kid, respectful kid. But when you're around these other boys, you turn into something that I don't even know who you are. I don't know who this kid is, because you're being mean and you're being disrespectful, and that's not who you are when you're by yourself. Those are the group bullies.
Yeah, and those are the ones that, I mean, for me growing up, I don't know, like, Andrew, if you can identify with this because you were a boy, and you probably saw them more in those groups. But for me, I would almost, I would laugh because I would see them being like all sweet and innocent or shy when they got in trouble. And then when they would get around their boys, it would all, everything would just go out the window.
It changed completely. Yes. And we would make fun of them. It's a common thing when that other side came out in front of us. Their kind of soft side came out in front of us. Oh, you're soft. Oh, you told her you loved her. And then just bag on him for that. So then that kind of pushed him to act aggro-aggressive when he was with us to kind of counteract that. So that happens.
Yeah, I think you get, if you're in a group of bullies, if you're not bullying, you're getting bullied, is like really what it was. And, I would see kids get in trouble and be like, oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to go to the office. I'm sorry. And then later on, the kids in the class would be like, "Oh, you're such a wimp. You said sorry to the teacher." Like, and they would make fun of them. And that would break my heart because next time they weren't saying sorry to the teacher. Next time they were going to the office and they were getting in trouble.
Right. So they're hardening up. They're now have decided I have to be this certain type of person. And that's where we lose our innocence, when the peers around us are making fun of us to a certain point where I lose that innocent, respectful, honorable kid in me. And now I think I have to be something more specific, like I got to start making fun of others to be accepted by this group of guys.
Yeah, and I think as a victim to group bullying, it was especially hard because, it's one thing to have one person focusing all their energy on you and watching you, and there's another thing to have 6 boys around you,
right,
ready to say anything.
So this next part here is the type of kids that most likely will be bullied. We can literally do a show all on its own just for this, and I know we're going to do a disservice to it because we only have a little bit more time left in the show, but let's kind of go through these. So the types of kids that are most likely to be bullied, number one is the kids that are good at what they do. So a lot of times kids will be bullied because they get a lot of positive attention from their peers and from other adults. The next one is some of the kids that are most likely to get bullied are kids that are intelligent, determined, and creative. At school, these students go the extra mile on their schoolwork, or they learn very quickly and move through the projects and assignments faster than other students. So they're a subject for other kids that aren't that smart to kind of pick at them and make fun of them, and to try to fill that void of inadequacy in themselves, that they're going to be a target. The next one is kids that have personal vulnerabilities. So children who are introverted or anxious or submissive are most likely to be bullied than kids who are extroverted and assertive. In fact, some researchers believe that kids who lack self-esteem may attract kids who are prone to be bullying. To be prone to bully.
Yeah, in the same way that I said, you can go to a school and see all the kids that are the popular bullies, that their ego just glows. Literally, that's what those kids
right.
are. They're glowing like, pick on me, like,
right.
I'm insecure.
Right.
And it's
like in a video game, you would have the arrow just...
It's like, me, you, I'm going to go straight to you.
The next one is kids that are most likely prone to be bullied have few or no friends. Many victims of bullying tend to have fewer friends than children who do not experience bullying. What's more is that they may be rejected by their peers, excluded from social events, and may even spend lunch and recess by themselves alone. So those are the kids that I think that are being targeted. Another one is kids that are popular or well-liked. Sometimes bullies target popular or well-liked children because of the threat that they pose to the bully. Mean girls are especially likely to target a girl who threatens their popularity or her social standing. In fact, a lot of relational aggression is directly linked to an attempt to climb the social ladder. So I think of the crabs. I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard a story called the Mexican crab. If you throw Mexican crabs in a bucket, as one crab tries to grab out, another one will grab them to pull them down, and therefore none of the crabs are able to get out of the bucket. It kind of reminds me of this social ladder that we feel we need to get to, and in order to get up there, for whatever reason, we've decided we got to put each other down to be able to get up, like stepping on top of each other to get up to the next, higher step of the ladder.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, especially young girls, they feel like it's important to be socially, to be at the top of the food chain in high school when it's probably sounds cliche, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
when you get older, it doesn't matter.
That's right. I wish we could land that distinction to these kids so they can get that none of this whole game and this whole fictitious world and these, rackets that I call them that you're playing, they're ego games. And none of those games are going to matter later on in life, and they're not important. In fact, you're just going to have regrets because you lowered yourself to that level and played that game in the first place.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Maybe. Oh, that's not all the time we have?
We got another break.
I saw a wrap-up.
It is a wrap-up, but we still got another break.
Oh, okay.
Back.
Well, we have a little bit more time, apparently. I'm sorry. Okay.
I know you want to get out of here. But...
We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more of the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, STV.
Don and Gino here. So we know you want to have fun learning about real estate and finance. You're going to want to tune in this Saturday, 9 a.m. to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show right here on your hometown station. Hot topics, as always, guiding you to personal and financial wellness. And that's right, you don't want to miss it. So again, this Saturday, 9 a.m., and then we replay it online Sunday, 9 a.m., Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m. right here on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. Join us.
My favorite restaurant in Santa Clarita? Salt Creek Grill, of course. Great food, neat atmosphere.
For a business lunch or romantic dinner, I'll always go to Salt Creek.
Hi, I'm Greg Amsler, owner of Salt Creek Grill. We have created Salt Creek to provide you with the most comfortable and inviting restaurant in Santa Clarita. Enjoy fresh mesquite grilled fish, aged steaks, and the best chops imaginable. There's entertainment every Friday and Saturday night, and we have the best Sunday brunch in town. Salt Creek is on Town Center Drive in Valencia.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we're talking about bullying, and our show is not over. We have more time. But before we went on the break, we were talking about the types of kids who are vulnerable to bullying.
Yeah, the kids that are most likely, I guess there's a research, so they try to do the research and find out what kids are prone to have bullies come after them. And I think everyone is open to have the possibility that someone's going to try to come after you and make fun of you to the point where they harass you and you end up just being bullied and attacked by somebody. But, there's information out there that you can arm yourself with as a parent to find out, more about it. And I think it's important to find out more so you can sit down and talk to your kids, because your kids could be falling in some of these higher percentages. So let's keep going. The next one is kids that have physical features that attract attention. So whether a target is short or tall or fat or thin, bullies may target them. Almost any type of physical characteristics that's different or unique can attract the attention of bullies. This might even include wearing glasses, having acne, having a large nose, or having ears that stick out. Anything that just is different, the bully's going to just they're going to attack that one vulnerability, that one feature that just doesn't fit in with the norm, right?
Even if they don't have features that are, typically fall into that category, even some really pretty girls, because they're so pretty, or because they have different, they're growing differently, whatever, people will still find a way to bully that.
But you fell in this category when you talked about the hips. You said I had, wide hips. If you have, certain features that are bigger, shorter, thinner, all it has to do is just not fit into the norm, and now it's subject for bullies to jump all over that.
Yeah, and one thing I also want to point out too is, obviously there's certain things about your kids that you'll recognize they might get bullied for, but you're not realizing that things that you never thought that they would get bullied for are possible.
That's right. The next one is kids that have an illness or a disability. Oftentimes bullies target special needs children. This can include children who have Asperger's, autism, ADHD, dyslexia, or any other conditions that sets them apart. What's more is that kids with conditions like food allergies, asthma, Down syndrome, and other conditions also can be targeted by bullies.
Yeah, I was just.
This is the worst.
This is so sad.
This is the worst of the worst. I mean, kids that can't defend themselves. This is the lowest level I think a bully can go to.
Yeah, and one thing I remember too in elementary school was any kids that did have disabilities, they would always have some type of, I don't know what they were called, but they always had like an adult with them, like that came to school with them and went to class with them and went to lunch with them. And as much as it held them back probably from interacting with the other kids, it almost protected them too.
Yeah, I love that. The next kind of kid that is most likely to be targeted by bully is kids that have a different sexual orientation. So more often than not, kids are bullied for being gay. In fact, some of the most brutal bullying incidents have involved children who are bullied for their sexual orientation, including if you're confused, if you don't know and you're exploring your sexuality and you're showing up like that in school, they seem to be targets.
Yeah, well, even when, especially in elementary or middle school, before, boys, before their voice gets deeper, before they get facial hair, they all, everyone back then, they were considered gay if they didn't have a deep voice, if they didn't have,
So any kind of feminine qualities.
Yeah, and even growing up now, they grew up and, they definitely never showed any other signs of being gay other than the fact that their voice maybe was squeakier than all the other boys. Anything like that could trigger somebody to make fun of them.
I know a kid that grew up, didn't have a father. The father left the family, and he was raised by his mom and his aunts and his his grandmother. So he was raised by a feminine family. And he spoke feminine, he acted feminine because those were his peers. That's what he watched, and he had those mannerisms. And he got bullied because of that, got categorized, put in a box by the bullies, and was picked on. And then the next one is kids that have different religious or cultural beliefs. It's not uncommon for a kid to be bullied for their religious beliefs. So, whether you're Jewish or you're Christian or Muslim, there's certain traditions that you could be wearing certain articles of clothing or a hat or a turban or anything that symbolizes your religion. You can be picked on and bullied for that. And then the last one is kids that may belong to different racial groups. Sometimes kids will be bullied because of their different kind of race, and that's obviously
very common.
That's the common one.
And all of this bullying, I can guarantee you, is common. Is going on at your kid's school. I think parents just pick which ones they think are common, like the race one, or my kid wears glasses, something like that, and you're not. The whole point of the show, or at least what I hope that people are getting out of this today, is that your kid is in danger of being bullied, and so are their friends, and so everyone at the school.
And so I think the takeaway is to give yourself permission to open up a dialogue, have discussion about it, ask your kids if they are being picked on or bullied or harassed, and then open up a conversation where you're asking open-ended questions like, how does it feel? How is this limiting you? How can I support you? Just create an open space for them to discuss this, because if it's not being discussed, it's being suppressed. It's being suppressed, and they're going to carry it around with them, and it's going to show up as insecurities for the rest of their life if they're not taught how to deal with it, and parents aren't giving themselves permission.
And be prepared that maybe your kid isn't, one, initially going to open up to you, or two, they might not even know they're being bullied. It kind of goes back to me and Andrew. We were saying some stuff is just so common that you don't realize that it's illegal, that it's harassment, that it's, that is actually bullying.
Yeah, the bottom line is look after your kids and create that opening so they can share with you and be trusted.
So this time we actually are out of time. Thank you for joining us today on The Inspirational Parent. We are here every Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. right here on your hometown station, KHTS.